You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more to life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more to life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, light some bottles, impress them girls. It's more to life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And I'm Ethan. And well, I was out stomping around in the woods when this most recent news dropped. And most of y'all know when you're in the South and out in rural areas around here, a lot of times you don't have cell service. And when this CJGJ news, CD Duce news dropped, when I finally saw the little blippet of it, I just saw that he got traded. And I was like, oh, what? He got traded? And I was like, what the heck? What the hell? And I was like, okay. Maybe it's not the end of the world. I was at first, the thing that made me most upset is that they traded him to the Eagles. Why do we keep having the deals with the Eagles, you know? And then I was like, well, maybe we got something good for him, you know? And so I kept having to deal with my service going in and out. And so I'm going down the Twitter feeds trying to see what we got for him. And I guess for the amount of time that I'd been without cell service, I guess it had happened a while back. And I'm going down the Twitter feed, and I'm just like, well, okay, he got traded. Is anyone on here gonna say what he got traded for? And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe we got something good for him. Maybe we got a second round pick. Maybe we got a third round pick. I'd be like, oh, well, maybe at least we got a fourth round pick. And then, oh, well, okay, maybe if we didn't get a pick, maybe we got an offensive lineman or something, because we all know we really need an offensive lineman. Or maybe we got a linebacker, because we definitely need one of those too. And then finally, when I got down to the bottom, I guess, like I said, when it must have dropped, it must have been an hour or two later after I'd been hiking around in the woods. And then I seen what it was for. A fifth round pick, a 2023 fifth round pick. And what is this trash? This trash six, the worst, Philadelphia's worst, 2 sixth-round picks. Like, I've never heard this disrespectful title of the worst, their worst 2 sixth-round picks of 2024. Like, the wording of that just slapped me in the face. Like, what kind of deal is that? I'm just like, man, I would have just rather just gave him away than take that disrespectful type of deal. And I'm just thinking to myself that's just lunacy to make that type of deal, and no less to a conference contender, a conference like rival. I guess not really a rival, but could be a team that you possibly could face in the playoffs. Like, if anything, if you're gonna do something like that, at least trade him to an AFC team or something. And of course, you know, we already made a deal with the Eagles earlier in the season, so you know Eagles trash fans are celebrating that trade, and I'm sure you know how Philadelphia fans, I'm sure they're celebrating the Penning injury as well because they traded us that the 18th or the 19th pick. So they're probably thinking they've won that deal even more now that Penning is hurt. And I'm just there must be something up with that trade of just giving him away. But what makes me not understand this trade is because you probably could have kept it CD Deuce through the season, and if you'd have kept him on the team through the season, you could have just let him walk, and if you let him walk, then you probably would have get a fourth round compensatory pick or a third round compensatory pick if he'd have just walked in free agency, or you could have let him hit the season run out and you could have franchise tagged him and then traded him to some team and probably got the same type of compensation, or you could have waited till mid-season and maybe traded him to some team that had some injuries and needed a slot corner or something like that. So, and probably got more or probably the same compensation. So I just don't really understand this trade. So it's just odd, just the compensation. I do understand the trade, and let's kind of get into why I understand the trade. Why the compensation is what I don't understand, but how I understand the trade is because previously in the off season he did the whole hold in thing, and I think, and I kind of mentioned how he's like a kind of a flamboyant vocal player, kind of like an Odell Beckham player. He's gonna speak his mind. Like obviously he knows his wealth. And maybe he thinks he's worth maybe even more than what he's worth. And I think that kind of is what was the whole hold in thing was about. And I think he probably wanted more money than what the whole slot nickel position was going to be worth. And it kind of harked back to the whole Jimmy Graham situation, to where is he a slot corner? Is he a strong safety? Or is he a cornerback? And I feel that he was probably going to think, well, I'm a cornerback. I'm an outside corner. I'm as good as Marshawn Lattimore. And they probably weren't going to want to pay him like he was Marshawn Lattimore. And because Marshawn Lattimore, he signed like just last year, signed like a $90 million contract where he's getting paid 18, $20 million a year. And I'm sorry, CD Deuce, CJ Gardner Johnson, CJGJ. I'm sorry, but you're not on Marshawn Lattimore's level, man. You don't even play the same position, So I can understand why they wouldn't have wanted to pay him. And I guess I've heard some stuff from other podcasters, other Saints media people saying that he was disgruntled and stuff because of that. And they thought like they had to get rid of him, had to get him outside of the building because of that. And maybe he wasn't even talking to coaches, which seems odd, but just giving him away kind of sucks. And he wanted to be, I guess this was kind of a statement of him from other people saying he wanted to be paid as like the best slot corner, nickel corner of all time. And hell, I can just name two that are better than him that could be listed as two of the best slot nickel corners of all time. And that's Chris Harris Jr. and Charles Peanut Tillman. So he's definitely not one of the best or nickel corners or slot corners of all time, because those guys were better than him. Those are two right there that are better than him when it comes to guys that are better than all time. And then when it comes to guys that are in his range, that are the ones that are being paid, that are have reset the market, I guess, that you wouldn't want to, why you wouldn't want to pay him 20 million a year, 18, 20 million a year, because Kenny Moore for the Colts is the highest paid slot corner right now, and he's only getting paid like 8 million a year. So it would just be ridiculous to think that you're going to pay a slot corner more than $10 million a year. So I can say I understand why they didn't want to pay him, but losing him definitely hurts the team. I think not as much on the field with just strictly play, but with more like off the field, because he is like a character guy, and I'm not talking like his the negative side that I think's been talked about here lately, but he's like a Mark Ingram type guy. He's an energy guy. He's a juice guy. He brings the wood, like we know about Reggie Bush in the Arizona Cardinal game. Like he brings life to the team when it needs it, and that's really what they lose with a guy like that, and that's what hurts. But I think that's what I think that's mostly what I have to say about all this. But then this all really circles back around to something a lot of people were talking about before all this happened, and that was the Tyrann Mathieu Honey Badger tweet that came out the day before. And that was the whole, oh, veteran, rookie players, young players make the team over proven vets, and oh, how that's unfair, and how it was deleted shortly after, and oh, you shouldn't. That's the whole thing, like moniker that, oh, you shouldn't press send. Don't press send, because everyone knows it doesn't matter if you post it and delete it right away, because somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to screenshot it. And what's so funny about that is uh, Saints fans and even fans outside of the Saints community, the Hoodats, made it seem as if it was a big deal, made a big deal out of it. We're like, oh, is Matthews upset with the team? Is he disgruntled, or was he mad that a certain Saints player got cut, or something like that? And then it's funny that all the Saints media people were like, "Oh, he's no. He's talking about a different player. He's talking about a linebacker from Arizona, or he's talking about the Ravens safety Jefferson from the Ravens, Tony Jefferson from the Ravens. He's not talking about the Saints at all. He's fine." Well, Saints fans, give yourself a round of applause. Give yourselves a pat on the back, because you were right. Those Saints media people, they were obviously wrong, because he must have heard something inside of the building, because he was they must have keyed him in, maybe let him know a little earlier that they were going to do something with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and let him know that I guess Alontae Taylor is obviously the replacement for C.J. Gardner-Johnson this upcoming year, and so that's obviously the young player that he's talking about that's going to be taking over C.J. Gardner-Johnson's spot. So listen with your ears and eyes sometimes, because don't be blind and try to discount things when it's clearly in front of you sometimes, and don't just try to disregard things to just try to make yourself feel better, because you can't be fooled. You can't fool us, because it's right there in front of you. But That's I think that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to something I don't think is any this I think this may comfort people. This will maybe comfort people a little bit more. But I want to move on from that because I'm getting too emotional about this. All right. So this might make people feel a little bit better because I compiled a pretty large list of Trevor Penning replacements. So of course, right after I I posted the Trevor Penning my last post, my last podcast, it shortly right after that, at first when he got hurt, they were just like, oh well, he's got a toe, and then it came out that he had turf toe, and then it came out uh, he's got uh, what was it? Then it finally dropped. He had ligament damage, tear. So it just got worse and worse and worse. And then it came out he's out indefinitely. And then hell, I'm thinking, oh, just come on, just say he's done for the season already. But it hasn't progressed to that point yet because it looks like he's still on the active roster. So if he wasn't on the active roster and they already put him on IR, then he would be done for the season. I assume. So we're fine. We're fine. That means that my calculation of maybe him just missing the first 6 games and then maybe keeping him on the roster and maybe him coming back in late November, December. Maybe that calculation I made might be true. So he's not done yet, but I made this pretty big list of players that could uh, not be his replacement necessarily, but could fill in and add some depth. Because I was until I did a little bit of searching and research, I was not aware how many offensive tackles are out there. There's quite a few veterans and stuff out there that could replace him. But let me run down this list and let you know, and maybe this will make some Saints fans out there feel a little bit better. So these are some guys I found. So there's Eric Fisher, Darrell Williams, Isaiah Wynn, Alex Leatherwood, who got cut on Tuesday, Nate Solder, Mike Rimmers, Marcus Cannon, Brian Blaga, Jason Peters, which that's the one I dislike the most. I'm uh, surprised he's not retired by now. He's like 40 years old, so I don't really know why I even put him on the list. But probably the one I like the ones I like the most are probably the top four here, which is Eric Fisher, Darrell Williams, uh, Isaiah Wynn, and Alex Leatherwood. And so the one I probably like, the top one is definitely Eric Fisher. But from what I've heard, um, nine teams have already come to him and asked him if he wants to play for them, wants to sign with them. But it sounds like he was the first overall pick several years ago for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's been a pretty solid player, left tackle for them. He was with them when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but I think he was hurt in the 2020 season when they played the Buccaneers, and that was part of the reason the Chiefs weren't any good. He was part of the reason the Chiefs' offensive line was so decimated, and like I said, that was a Mickey Mouse ring the Buccaneers won. That was a bubble championship. That was just a COVID ring. And that's part of the reason why is because the Chiefs' offensive line was just completely decimated, and he was a stalwart offensive lineman, left tackle for them, and he's part of the reason Eric Fisher, their stalwart blindside left tackle was hurt, and he's that guy. He was the first overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago. But sounds like he doesn't want to sign with just any team. He wants to sign with a team that's a Super Bowl contender. It sounds like, and he's only 31 years old, and he's started pretty much every game that he's been healthy enough to play with, but sounds like he doesn't want to just play for anybody. But I would feel really good if they were able to sign him, but doesn't sound like he would want to come here and play behind anybody. Sounds like he would want to start uh, at left tackle for us. So, and the guy I like most after him would be Darrell Williams, probably, because he's still only about 29 years old, played for the Bills, uh, and he started, I think, every game for them last year. So that would be an interesting one as well. And then Isaiah Wynn, he started like every game uh, for uh, for the Bills, or the Isaiah Wynn, he started like every game for the Patriots, but I think you'd have to trade for them. So I don't know how I feel about giving up any more players or picks. And then Alex Leatherwood's an interesting one. I think he kind of became like a failure for the for the for the for the Las Vegas Raiders, or yeah, the Las Vegas Raiders was like the 17th or 18th pick for them just last year, and they tried him at guard, they tried him at tackle, and just couldn't find a spot for him. But I feel if he came to the New Orleans Saints, that maybe they could develop him a little bit more. I think he has all the intangibles that he would probably be better here and could add depth and be a be a better be a better player here. Could maybe develop into something, because I mean he was a starter, national champion with Alabama. It's just hard to believe uh, that that someone could be drafted that high and play at such a prestigious college and just be a bust like that. But I mean, the Raiders have not been great at drafting the last couple of years. And then a lot of these other guys, the problem with a lot of these other guys is that they're kind of coming to the end of their career. They're 34, 35, and then an issue with a lot of these other guys is they're not left tackles. They're right tackles. And that's it doesn't seem like it's a big issue, but it is. Left tackles are usually more athletic than right tackles, and to make that transition to left tackle when you're towards the end of your career, 34, 35, it's more difficult than you think. But man, I would love it if they were able to get Eric Fisher or Darrell Williams. And so I really wouldn't like them to get. I don't think I would love it if they had to trade for Isaiah Wynn, or had to, and maybe Alex Leatherwood just for maybe to try to develop him. But anyways, but that, I mean, that's like 10 different offensive linemen there. So I mean, there's a large list of players that the Saints could choose from. So there's a lot more options out there than I originally thought. So the next thing I have here is just some cuts that were maybe a little interesting to me, but not well, really. I mean, one was interesting and the other wasn't. I kind of expected this, and that was Ian Book, and I expected that. I expected him to get cut. I didn't think he was going to make. I didn't think the Saints were going to keep three quarterbacks on the roster, because I think they still basically have three quarterbacks on the roster, and I think Taysom Hill in an emergency, that if Jameis goes down and Andy Dalton goes down, then I think they would probably go. I think they would honestly probably go to Taysom instead of bringing up. So say Ian Book makes the practice squad, I think they would probably go to Taysom Hill instead of bringing Ian Book up up from up from the up from the practice squad. So even though Ian Book, I think he did show quite a bit of progress and growth in the last preseason game, even though it was probably against third and fourth stringers. But you got to admit he did show that progression. Uh, I still think if he clears waivers and another team doesn't sign him to their active roster, I think he will make their practice squad. But still, I think Taysom Hill would probably is still probably technically your third string quarterback. And then the one that surprised me more really was the only surprise cut to me, and that was Kurt Merritt. I, I, I was really honestly hoping he made the team over Traquan Smith. I really thought I really thought that 59-yard return against Green Bay sold him. I thought that solidified his spot on the team, but I guess it didn't. And then I thought the touchdown against he had like four catches, four targets, four catches in the game against the Chargers, and a touchdown that was thrown to him by Ian Book, but I guess not. And I mean, Traquan Smith even has he's injured right now, has a shoulder injury, and has been injury prone pretty much his whole career. And you're gonna keep a guy that's pretty much injury prone and currently injured over a younger guy that's pretty much shown a lot more promise and probably has a higher ceiling right now than a guy that's just pretty much injury prone and pretty much shows you who he is. I guess maybe that's why they're keeping Traquan Smith, because they know who he is. I guess they know he's a good blocker, and he's their guy. They drafted him. They drafted him in the third round, so they like their guy. They're loyal to their guy. So they know what they're getting in Traquan Smith, I guess, and they feel more comfortable with him, and he's the last receiver on their depth chart. So does it really matter that much? I guess not, but I'd rather kept Kurt Merritt because he brings something to the table that Traquan Smith doesn't really, and that's a return man. But I guess other than that, it's not something to get too excited about, but or emotional about. But other than that, I think that's all I got for you. And with that, can I get a check, please?